Stu, I ain't even mad, Stu. I can't be mad at that. Like I was gonna be. I was gonna be
No,
mad. But
you can't be mad.
I can't be mad. I can't be mad at that. Panthers fall to the Arizona Cardinals 27-22 in a tale of two games, really. We'll get into it here on Believe in Panthers, our live post-game edition. Desmond Johnson here in the house with the Panthers all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. And Stu's, this game was really a tale of two games. The first half felt like a completely different half than the second half. The Panthers were down at one point, 27-9, I believe it was. And then Kyler Murray threw an interception, I think in the third, and then everything just started turning around. And then for once, I don't know what was going on, but it felt like the referees wanted to help us win this game. It felt like they were trying everything they could. They're trying everything they could to get us in.
It was either the referees or the Arizona Cardinals defense.
Well, the Cardinals, yeah. The Cardinals trying to hand it back to us. So let's start it off with Stu. Your overall thoughts of this, and then we'll get into my notes here that I keep for each game for the post game. And it's going to be a cornucopia of emotions on my side here as we're doing this.
Yeah.
Your thoughts
for us, if you look at the stats and you look at this game, if you didn't watch the game thoroughly, or from the beginning to the end, you would, if you're a Panther fan, you would have been frustrated if it wasn't for the ending of that game. Fourth quarter, we gave ourselves a chance. But to start things off, we had turnovers. And whenever you have turnovers in this league, you get behind the wagon. You can't be behind the wagon trying to win games. And that's essentially what happened. Bryce Young, fumble and then interception. He felt the pressure early on in the first half. And I think the defense for the most part, did a decent job of turning things around from last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I think what we got to do is figure out how to play complementary football. You can't be really bad on offense and expect the defense to be really, really good on defense, and then vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's what you want and expect out of your team. But as you know, this is the beginning of the season. You're still working on certain things. You're working out kinks and all that. And this is also obviously too, it's an away game, right? Back-to-back games on an away trip. So those are obviously part of the process, right? It's part of the game. It's part of overcoming the travel aspect of things. So there's no excuse. But I would like to say, if I had to put it, it's almost like the big picture here is efficiency versus volume. I feel like we had a lot of volume today. But as far as efficiency, early on, we kind of kicked ourselves in the foot, right?
Yeah.
And then the reason why I say the efficiency versus volume, Arizona, you look at the yards per play, 6.1 versus 4.6. And yeah, they had some chunk plays, especially that Kyler Murray scramble, which actually that drive ended with him throwing a pick because he was scrambling for his life again. And Wanham came up with the diving interception there that actually gave us the momentum to continue to go down there and make this a game. So, but when you talk about the yards per play, I think we spent a lot of time, on offense, on those drives, because they were playing, a certain coverage, which is prevent for the most part, prevent you from scoring, prevent you from, chunk plays. So you're nickel and diming all the way upfield, and we did what we were supposed to do, taking what the defense gives you in that situation, and we gave ourselves a chance. So if you're a Carolina Panther fan, you got to watch something that got you out of your seat, gave you some excitement. The defense did their job, getting in the backfield, getting after Kyler Murray, making the stop, and giving us the ball back. That's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, I mean, and some of this stuff is explainable. As we go to my in-game notes, the stuff that I keep as we're doing, and mainly this one, I wrote a lot of stuff in the first half. In the second half, I kind of put the phone down and just kind of watched like what was happening. And literally laughed every second play whenever a flag would come out. And I'm like, who's it on? Who's it on? I'm like, man, Arizona just keeps giving us 15 yards. Like, what is going? What do they not want to win this game? The first half was completely different from the second half. Of course, Bryce fumbled on the first drive of the game, like third down or whatever, fumbles, score for his Cardinals. Throws an interception, they get a field goal off of it. You know, same story as last week. You take those 2 turnovers away, that's 10 points off the board for Arizona. And then Arizona,
I'd also like to add too, you know, Jatavian Sanders, the Cardinals had a instant replay there to challenge, you know, on that third down where we thought he had, you know, we thought he had converted there on the catch across the middle, and they looked at it and they called it incomplete, and so
that changed it.
That actually led to points. And so there's a lot of those situations where, you know, they're costly. The word costly is going to continue to come up, I feel like, when we do give ourselves a chance to come back and win a game. You look back in hindsight, it's the costly mistakes. It's the costly, you know, pivotal moments where, oh man, if you would have just had that 1 foot in bounds, oh, if you would have just, you know, tucked it sooner or whatever, or if you would have just, you know, made the decision with some confidence, you know, and just deliver the ball. It's a game of inches. It's a game of, you know, timing. And, you know, right now we're watching the Panthers battle, and I really like the fact that they battled today. They could have laid it down. They could have given up. They had some injuries on the offensive line that I hope aren't going to be anything devastating down the road. But Robert Hunt wasn't in the game at the end there. Corbett got hurt, and Caden Mays came in there and did his thing. So,
Zavala.
I mean, yeah, Zavala. So there's you know, some things that I think if you're watching the game, you don't know that those guys weren't out there on that last drive. If you're starting offensive lines out there protecting Bryce, maybe that's a different outcome because he was getting chased for his life. He was running for his life out there. 26 first downs though, man. That's impressive. I don't care what you didn't win the game, but there's a lot to build on. If you're, you know, going back after this trip, you got a home game coming up next, you have a lot to build on. And that's something that I think, you know, earlier on last year or previous years, you know, you have a game like this and it's not the outcome that you want. If you look at that third quarter, that fourth quarter, there's a lot that the Carolina Panthers did right. And I think we just got to stack upon that.
I went into halftime upset with the defense, but then I started thinking about it, and then the game started to turn, and now you look at the box score, and you're like, you know what? And actually, the announcers mentioned it during the game broadcast that the defense actually played pretty well, other than the very first part of the game, and then towards the end of the first half, they actually did okay. And then looking at the stats, I'm like, yeah, they held them under 300 yards total on offense, and you mentioned the first downs, but I wrote down domino effect. Early turnovers on offense lead to early deficits, which puts the defense in bad spots. And it all kind of goes together. And the first 2 weeks, we've kind of seen that. This week, we actually saw the Panthers fight back. And that's what I wanted to see when they got down 10-0. I was like, well, what are they going to do? Because this is, or 7 or whatever it was really, really early. I'm like, are they going to just sit down and just kind of take it? Or are they going to keep chipping away? And they kept chipping away to their credit. This could have been one of those games where if they had pulled it off, we would be talking about this as the Bryce Young game. This was the game that Bryce arrived. You know what I mean? And that's
but think about this though, right? This is a game. This is the Bryce Young that we already know. This is because, in my opinion, Bryce bounced back in this one game. Started the game off in a certain way in how he played, but he bounced back, and his teammates rallied around that. The running game wasn't there today like we would have wanted it to be. You know, we were kind of stuck in some ways when it came to the running game. You know, Calais Campbell had a spectacular game.
That dude, 39 years old after doing that. Yeah, he got hurt, came back.
So when you have guys like that out there, you know, there's got to be a lot of attention that goes to a guy like that, right? So You would have hoped that we would have been able to find some creases, but we just couldn't figure it out today on the run game. I think that would have helped us, along the way. I would like to see us run some more gap scheme, because I think gap scheme, when you do have an offensive line that is hurting, it allows for you to, play the misdirection a little bit. But I think when it was when Chuba was in there and he had an opportunity, he scored obviously on that swing pass down there in the red zone. But I think that the first scoring drive that we had out in the second half, it was led by the run game. Once we actually popped that 14-yard run by him up the middle, it kind of loosened up the defense, and it allowed for Bryce to, see things a little bit differently, because now the defense has to pay attention to the run game. So you bring those guys into the box, and then you can start hitting things behind the linebacker area. And I think they started getting some progress and movement after that.
I think a couple other things that I wrote down. We look so much better in no huddle. Like when we're just going without having to think. The tempo. It's just like, it's almost like we think ourselves out of some stuff, or we run a play, it gets stuck behind the line of scrimmage, and then we wait like forever to get the play in. Something that the announcers mentioned that I did not know. Head coach Dave Canales this week in practice, they actually shortened the play clock like 2 seconds because of the stuff we talked about before. They get to the line really late. So in practice, they shortened it by 2 seconds so they could actually practice on getting there faster. And today, a lot of that was actually, they didn't get any delay of game penalties off of that, I don't believe, in terms of not getting the play out. I think they took one to get some extra yardage to punt with. But I wrote that down, and then I also wrote down before they actually recovered it, but I do not like having to declare you're going to onside kick. I don't like that rule. I understand why it's there because the way they've messed it up with the kickoffs and stuff, but to actually have to tell the other team that you're going to do this, it feels like it just takes away an element of surprise, really.
But I'll say this though: what else are you gonna do with that situation?
Right? Yeah. What do you think you're going to do? Like, hey, we're going to onside kick it. We just need to announce it to everybody, and then we got it. So like, I literally put I took my head down for a second. I was looking on my phone because nobody ever gets these onside kicks, like ever.
Yeah. We were in the booth. I was in the booth with Jake and Jordan Gross. They were calling the radio, and I'm sitting back there. I'm like, man, it would be nice to, for this to go in our favor. I know the likelihood of this happening does not happen, but it'd be nice if it did. And then boom, it happened, right? So it was like one of those games. It was one of those games, though, man. Like, hopefully they go back and they realize what they are working with, what works for them. I think tempo needs to be something that absolutely needs to be put into their game plan. It doesn't need to be, 2-minute offense or 4-minute offense, or you're losing in the game and all of a sudden you want to get the tempo going. I think this should just be part of amplifying, or igniting your offense when you need it, right? I know sometimes, when Cam was, when I played with Cam, a lot of times Shula would just kind of say, hey, tempo. We would have that in our game plan just to catch the defense off, right? Instead of being, what we're going to run, but at least you have to line up and hurry up and do it before we do, right? Yeah. So dictate the tempo a little bit. And I think a little bit that comes with conditioning. Again, it's the second game of the season. They just came from Jacksonville. It's a road game. And so you kind of have to monitor the situation and the players that you have available to you. And we've already had 2 offensive linemen go down. You kind of have to, be mindful of who's available and who's conditioned and who's prepared to go in there and run, the tempo offenses. Because there's a lot of lingo, a lot of terminology that goes into it, which means the chemistry has to be right up front for them to really be able to work together to pull that off.
Yeah. One of the other things I wrote down early in the game in the first half, it did feel like they were getting a lot of explosive plays early, like Arizona. It felt like they were ripping off these 10-yard, 15-yard things. But then in hindsight, looking back at it, wasn't a whole lot of them. It just felt like it happened as they were building their lead. I did write down, I want to see more younger players, especially on the defense. And then we started to see some of them. Princely got a sack. disrupted another one.
It's like today.
Latham Ransom got in there in the second half. So that why was Jimmy Horn inactive again? That was the very first thing I wrote on here. Why was Jimmy Horn Jr. inactive? And I kind of got my answer, and I think it was Hunter Renfrow because he had a game today. Like he was out there doing stuff. And I got to give a shout out to Bryce.
Two touchdowns.
Yeah.
And he came up with a lot of clutch moments as far as, making the contested catches as we expect him to do. But Jatavian Sanders had a career game today too.
Yeah, he did.
And being able to
again, Ted McMillan is a baller.
Yes,
like
obviously.
I understand why they decided not to go defense and decided to get him. Still a little kind of on it, but he's the real deal. They're going to grow together. Now, in that same sentence, I also wrote, starting to worry about XL. Like, I'm starting to worry a little bit about him. He's had, I think Joe Person or somebody put it out a minute ago. He's had 4 catches for 8 yards or something so far this season. This is a guy we traded up to in the first round. He ran a route early in the first quarter where like he just kind of ran it and then just stopped and paused for a second and then went inward. And when he did it, like Bryce, it was just miscommunication or something, but it was the way he ran his route. It just didn't look fluid. Like, because you see Tet on the other side running routes, you're like, man, it was like a Cadillac going around like cones. Like just, it's all smooth and like he has his confidence about him. Like he's going to catch everything that comes by. XL's still kind of struggling with something with that. Like he had opportunities, but some of them weren't catchable. Some of them were hard throws, but some of them were ones he needs to make. And like, I'm kind of worried a little bit about him. Feed Ted McMillan. That's kind of my thing right here. And then that was the other thing too, with the team as a whole. The first 2 games, we haven't been able to figure out what the identity of this team is because they've been having to scramble like in those 2 games. But in this game, it makes me feel like maybe we did figure out the identity of this team. Maybe it's not running the ball. Maybe running is going to be part of it, but maybe we need to put it in Bryce's hands. He's the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Let that man air it out.
The identity needs to be running the ball.
I want it to be, but I don't know if it is. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
We absolutely have to figure out how to get more than 50 yards rushing in a game. You cannot win in this league if you're not running the ball. You might be able to beat teams like the Cardinals, but you're not going to be able to win championships. So we have to figure out a way to commit to the run at some point. Because it's going to come down to, at some point, it's going to come down to playing defense and running the ball. It always does. I mean, if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they won the Super Bowl because they played defense and they ran the ball.
Better
and then when you run when you run the ball and you have Pro Bowl, All Pro receivers, it makes it really, really easy to throw the ball whenever you need to, right? But you got to be able to tap into that run game because that sets you up for play action and those explosive plays that we would love to see. It's hard to, when you're in these moments that we were in this game against the Cardinals, you got to give Bryce and the coordinator their props because it's hard to move the ball down the field the way they did in that situation where the Cardinals are absolutely in defense, not giving you anything. They're in a 4-man rush, and they're basically dropping the coverage. So it's hard to move the ball like that, and they were doing it. And so when you add the element of running the ball, meaning, hey, you can go 4 down if you want, we're just going to run it. They had 2 minutes left, so they had time. They had 2 minutes. And a timeout. And they actually did they did call a run for to Chuba.
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere. But if that is an option, now you put the defense in a bind in a very, huge moment, which is we got to stop these guys because if not, they're going to score and we'll lose the game. But instead, you make them one-dimensional and you got them right where you want them.
Another thing, too, was happening on the Cardinals side, especially in the second half. They started compiling a lot of injuries. Like they had a lot of guys starting to get hurt, like they're at the very end. And shout out to the Panthers for noticing it and starting to attack. Will Johnson went out, their cornerback that's really, really good. He went out and they started attacking the guy that came in there. Budda Baker got hurt in this game. They had a lot of defensive guys that got hurt in this game in the second half.
A lot of guys got injured.
Yeah, and a lot of guys Cardinal on Cardinal crime. Like they were running into each other and getting hurt.
which actually helped us on offense because
Mm-hmm.
clearly your guys go down and now you can only play certain coverages. We saw a lot of zone once they started going down, which
It did
made
go
it a
vanilla.
little bit
Yeah.
more predictable for, Bryce to possibly, find his pockets and where he was going to go with the ball.
I don't think. Well, I'm looking through the comments here. I'm not going to put them on the screen, but just looking through some of them. Willie Smith mentions that the team appears to be treating these first 2 games as preseason, figuring out who they are. Canals needs to lock in as a head coach. Does he need to hand over play calling? I don't think the play calling was the problem today. I think the turnovers were like early. Like, they just kind of set the tone. You just can't spot teams' points in the NFL. Like, we were really lucky to get back into this game. They had to claw to do it, and Arizona helped them out a lot in terms of the Murray interception, the penalties on that last drive, giving up the onside kick, like things that normally Arizona's really only a year ahead of us, in terms of like where they are, like maybe a year or two. Because I forgot Kyler Murray's been in the league like 7 years. He's already been here once. Like, he's been here for a while.
They call the folks out here in Arizona. They're calling for Kyle Murray's. They calling for his career. They don't like him out here for whatever reason. It's kind of crazy.
I wrote on here, Kyler Murray is really good. I think it was after that scramble where Roseman
he made a lot of great decisions today, but when he was chased out of that pocket and he decided to throw that ball under distress, I don't know why he did that. He should have just threw that away. He should have threw it away.
He'll give you one. He's a faster Bryce Young, basically. Like, same kind of size. He's a little stockier. He's kind of built like more like a baseball player, and he was one. So he's a little stockier build. He's faster. He's a lot faster than Bryce Young is. But I think Bryce might be a little bit more accurate when he's hot, like when he's on. Bryce was, again, shout out to Bryce Young. I know sometimes we go up and down with him, but he threw some darts today. Like, he was throwing some
darts. That touchdown pass he threw to Renfro?
Yeah, it went through like 3 people.
Boy, he said, and the cool thing about that is the details, right? It was a fake handoff to Chuba. It was an RPO, and so he had the ball in Chuba's stomach for a very long time, and was still able to get the ball out and throw a dart right there to Renfro for his second touchdown. And then on the first touchdown, what I liked about that was Bryce is on the move, and he threw it with conviction.
Yes.
He threw it with so much conviction. I mean, I was in the booth and I was just able to see it head on. And like, those are the moments where, your quarterback gains confidence and you gain confidence as a team, where he's just delivering the pill with conviction. No hesitation, understands the play call, understands what he sees on the defense, and he makes the throw and he makes the play. He had a lot of that today. And he should. There's a lot to build on, as opposed to last week. Last week we're kind of, in awe of, how bad we saw, the Panthers play. But I think today, we saw a tale of two halves, and unfortunately we were just, one turnover short of winning this ball game.
Yeah, again, and I felt like I ended last week's episode with this too. You take away the turnovers, and it's a whole different game. Matter of fact, we'd probably win the game. If you take the turnovers away, so it's now last week was a little bit harder to picture, but this week it's easier to kind of see. If we didn't mess up the first 4 plays we had, then hey, there might be something different going on here.
Yeah, there's moments where I was happy about the product of the run defense. The run fits were a lot better than they were last week. James Conner's not a guy that you just take lightly, and we were able to stuff the gaps. Run fits were there when we needed it to be, and I think the defense has come a long way. I mean, Derek Brown is batting down passes. Seeing him in the backfield chasing down Kyler Murray, it literally looked like King Kong chasing a person on the street. It was like King Kong came to Phoenix and was chasing Kyler Murray around. But it wasn't just Kyler. It just wasn't Derek Brown. It was the whole entire defensive line, in my opinion. Just seeing these guys, playing all the way through the whistle. The efforts there. They obviously are done with the talking, and they want to make sure they put their best foot forward. And I think the defense, they did what they were supposed to do for the most part. They got a turnover. We just turned the ball over way too many times early.
Yeah, and that's something they'll have to clean up. And They do that, and again, both these games are on the road. This one was actually a different time zone, so you have to deal with that. It's the first time I had to deal with that this year. And I'm sitting there thinking about it's not really even two halves. It was really that first part of the first half, and then it was more like, what do they do? Because even the announcers were like, it'd be really easy for them to lay down and just be like, hey, we're going to long ride back to Charlotte, but let's see how they react. And they kept chipping away. They kept pounding, and then that touchdown at the end of the first half really kind of could have been a killer, but for them to come out in the second half and keep on going, and again, that Kyler Murray interception was kind of the spark that kind of got them going. And when they got that touchdown, it was like, okay, but then that onside kick really was like, oh, this might be this might be one of those destiny type things. It's been a long time since. Well, really, last year I kind of felt like this towards the end of the year too. And some of these games that we lost, like Philly and Kansas City, where it was like, I can't even be mad. Like they played as hard as they could. They were playing against an opponent that was better than them, and they played them down to the wire. I wouldn't say Arizona is that much better than Carolina in terms of talent, but
Cardinals isn't. I wouldn't give them. I mean, you respect your opponent, but
right? Yeah,
I don't play football anymore, so I don't have to respect them. but they aren't that good of a team, right? And we know that. You watch the game, the early turnovers that we had. I mean, and the inefficient product on offense of, not being able to move the ball and convert, that should have been 21-0 in the beginning.
Yeah,
think about it, if we were playing a good team. But luckily, we were playing the Cardinals, and that gave us some chances to stay in this game. And once that happened, everybody's a pro on the field. So you give anyone a chance to stay in the game. Carolina Panthers did what they're supposed to do. They ignited, and I think this is a good confidence builder, especially in the passing game. What I want is that running game to be more effective, because if that running game becomes more effective, then you're not one-dimensional, and you can go into an environment like this and put a defense, in a bind, and we weren't able to do that.
I'm a firm believer in play action. I want to be able to get off on that, especially with the way we run the football. And I'm like you. I'm old school. Run the ball, stop the run. Like, you can do that, you can win a lot more games than you lose. And Carolina's kind of starting to figure it out. And again, we mentioned it last week. I don't even know what the expectations were for this team, like in terms of what we thought they would be at the end of the year, because they were really an unknown with everybody they brought in that's new and that's young and everything else. Yeah. So I don't really know if anybody had high expectations like winning the division or anything like that. But I did have expectations of them getting better from week to week. And I know you did. Yeah, I know you did.
And that's a good point, Desmond. This is the expectation is that if you're not winning games, you're getting better and you're figuring out why. And so I think they came back from last week. They made some improvements. They made some adjustments. Now we just got to hope that these guys aren't too banged up and they can heal up at the offensive line spot, so that way we can continue to protect Bryce Young. And I think that's the answer, man. But I do have to go. I have to get out of here before my bus leaves.
Oh God, they're kicking you out.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in Arizona live.
We forgot to mention Stu was actually at the game, so he's there. Yeah, we got to get out of here. They're taking on the Falcons at 1:00 on a Sunday, and we'll be back midweek with our regular episode previewing that.
I should have just been doing this the whole time.
That's nice. Background. Yeah, what are you doing? Yo, that's hot. I like that. So Stu was actually at the game, so he gave him your first bird's eye perspective there. In the booth with Jake Delhomme and who else did you say was in there? Jake Delhomme and you said Luke was in there?
Jordan Gross.
Jordan Gross. Yeah. So next week, Sunday, 1:00 kickoff on Fox. It's the Falcons. It's a division game. We'll get you hooked up for that. Probably around Wednesday, our regular episode will drop. Then we'll preview that and we'll go around the league from what happened over the past weekend. Teams out here dropping 50 burgers on people. So we'll get in all that and more. Stu's got a bus to catch. They're gonna leave him stranded out here in the desert. So we gotta
keep doing that.
Yeah, we got to get rolling.
No camel, so I ain't got no water just sitting in my body like that.
Yo, everybody, have a great night. Enjoy your week. We'll see you guys midweek. Keep at it.